20 flex.
In 10 minutes time now at the top of the hour, we see the release of the US wholesale inventories month over month revised. Forecast minus 0.4% on the prior minus 0.4%. Wholesale sales month over month, a prior read of 2.3%.
So we've just traded up to our 15-minute VWAPs, 154 on NQ, 2062.40 on RTY, and 204.75 on yes. So we just need to make those supportive. This is just a retest from the basing that we did from the open. We've now shifted upward. We want to see if we can now hold these for the gap fill up. And we need to, again, get back over these and make them supportive if we want any more upside. What's up, Busy? This 194 level is not new. It's been on our charts for a while. The current contest right now is just, can we get back into yesterday's value? Be our first target as long as we are making higher lows and continuing to hold outside of value. We should be looking for expansion. I think any failure to maintain value high as supportive is probably going to result in a full rotation back down to the lows. So we do want to see buy side really be able to maintain.
So in 10 minutes time now at 10 a.m. Eastern time, get the US wholesale inventories month over month revised. Forecast minus 0.4% on the prior minus 0.4%, and the wholesale sales month over month to a prior read of 2.3%.
So we need NQ back over 180, right? Yesterday's value. We just want to see ES be able to kind of build above 200s for the gap up. Russell as well. Everything just needs to get back over these few ups. NQ testing now, leading the market up. Nicely done, man.
1 minute remaining for the US wholesale inventories month over month.
We'll have to see what happens, but if I had to guess, this just feels like they stopped out everyone who accumulated yesterday and then can lift. But we'll see. We still need to get back into yesterday's value before we can be bullish. But I do like where we held, and I like that we're able to bet so far. So I do think that we will go up. We'll have to see what news does on the day, but again,
10 seconds.
from the action that happened yesterday with how positioning was, it kind of feels like a punishment, and buy side still just kind of accumulating. Still really want to see
minus 0.4% as expected. Wholesale sales
push back up to
month
yesterday's
minus
value.
1.3%, minus 1.3%, lower than forecast 0.8%.
At our first target here of 205s. At ES. Is NQ coming up into our first target, pushing into 180. Remember, 180.50 is yesterday's value low. We can find acceptance above 180.50 and show it as supportive. We should be able to rotate up to yesterday's POC. That is the idea. Expect sellers to be positioned here at the 180.50. What you are looking for is the ability to look above, bid, and then we can trade back up to yesterday POC up at 200. So then until we get back over, this will always be your risk off point. Understanding that when we are below and outside of a balance, we always look for this to be as our resistance until we can push above and supportive. And we find acceptance back in,
wholesale
or does it hold?
March reports on the feed for anybody interested.
Always, always, always. Going back up to retest our 180.50. Again, no change. Just trying to build acceptance. Yeah, man, I really want to try the new brutal mode on V Rising, but I think it might be too hard for new people. It bumps the boss damage up by 75% and standard unit damage by 40%. Yeah. It'll really feel like a Souls-like game. Ugh, Jesus. We're just looking for Russell to be able to continue to find buyers at 57 to 55.60. As long as that's happening, I think we still just maintain. need the Russell and NQ to be able to build to higher lows. Looks like NQ just needs to come back down to POC. Again, we rejected yesterday's value low at our 180. ES is back at POC right now. Need to be able to build above 205s as supportive, or a rotation back down to our value low on the day is probably likely. Look for 200s to hold if 202 can't build here. But really, again, we're just looking to see if buy side's still willing to defend POCs, and if we can then get back into yesterday's value. We'll gap up. Today. We have moved up to our VWAPs from Globex on the 15 and are just trying to build it out. 57 is a pretty significant pivot for the Russell, just with how we built out this morning. And right, NQ still holding where we want. And just looking for a push up 5s for and then a hold on ES. Just continue to respect POC as support from today's profile until we see that the offer has lowered below POCs, then we can value low. Until then, right, we just are building higher lows. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. POC is always our orange line, so we want to continue to just respect that buy side is willing to end that. If we start to see a rotation below it, then we can start to look for that value low, but you shouldn't be targeting a value low until we see acceptance right below this level, the ability to not get back above, and we can start to do. As long as we're kind of maintaining it and building it out, I'm still kind of just going to be watching that semi looks like this, where we just are holding our 200s for a retest of yesterday value. We had NQ leading up on the day, and we rejected yesterday's value low, right? So until NQ finds a bottom, we're going to continue to chop until buyers are found on the back name. Again, just NQ holding POC, immediate bid. Same with the Russell and ES, pushing back over now. We want to make 205 supportive. As long as we're maintaining 200s, not concerned about anything. Need to get over 205 here. So for short term.
At 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we get our weekly EIA data. Crude oil inventories forecast draw 1.43 million on the prior build 7.265 million. Gasoline inventories forecast draw 1.18 million on the prior build 0.344 million. Distiller inventories forecast draw 1 million on the prior draw 0.732 million. And crude Cushing inventories prior a build of 1.089 million.
All right, Bark. I put it on brutal, but I upped the refinement rate by
TV Tokyo says Japan intervened in the FX market twice last week.
yeah. So 1.5 for drop table for the loot. for servant loot from missions, 2% yield from, sorry, from 1 to 2 when harvesting, so it should be 2 times loot, 1.5 on blood lessons, refinement rate 2, crafting rate 2. So it should be a bit quicker, so it's not as punishing for deaths, but it should still be fun. No, you don't lose gear, you lose durability. Hardcore is the only thing where you lose full gear. We're back into yesterday's value. Again, this is all we're looking for. We want 205s now hold for a move up to 210 on ES. We'd like to see 180 now hold as supportive on NQ, this 180 to 176. And then we should be able to rotate up to our 200 target like we talked about. No change there. Does that sound good though, guys? I want it to be like hard boss-wise, like challenging, but to both, yeah. If it sucks, we could. This is our target on NQ from the hold of yesterday's value, 200s. If we can build above 200, 208, then I think we come up to retest our ETH high. Oh, this is target though, just keep that in mind. Yeah, it really is.
At 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we get our weekly EIA data. Crude oil inventories forecast a draw of 1.43 million. On the prior builds, 7.265 million. Gasoline inventories forecast a draw of 1.18 million. On the prior build of 0.344 million. Distiller inventories forecast a draw of 1 million. On the prior draw, 0.732 million. And crude Cushing inventories prior a build of 1.089 million.
It's nice that we actually got movement today in the morning. You love to see that. Oh god, it's good that you didn't, man. It was the worst. Nice, man. What do you think? You were using Trade Day, right, Varg? Or Elite? I don't even know. Where are your fundeds? It's crazy that you had an easier time passing Apex than Top Step. What do you think was the issue with Top Step? I feel like Apex's rules are like the worst. Oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense. You're coming back to them leveled up. Yeah, you're definitely better psychologically and just better overall than before. What the hell is a bullnax? Bullnax? Is that a proverb? Never heard of them. Really keep an eye on our push into 12.5 here, guys. This is our look into yesterday's value at 210. But we have a major seller positioned at 1250 on ES. So this is just PT. I'm out for right now until we can start to see the ability to build. If we can do this, then we can look for this shift back up for the full gap fill. Okay, just like we did with NQ. If we can get back into yesterday's value, we should be able to trade back up to yesterday POC, which would also just be our gap fill. Oh. Yep.
One minute remaining. I'll lead with EIA crude oil inventories. Ten seconds. Draw 1 spot 362 million, draw 1 spot 362 million. That's higher than the expected draw of 1 spot 43 million. Gasoline inventories build 0 spot 915 million, build 0 spot 915 million, higher than the expected draw of minus 1 spot 18 million. Distiller inventories build 0 spot 56 million, build 0 spot 56 million, higher than the expected draw of 1 million. Crude Cushing inventories build 1 spot 88 million, build 1 spot 88 million. Seeing some upside in WTI crude oil.
Hopefully that helps RTY be able to hold here. We would love to see the Russell be able to build previous seller and hold value. We're at push back up to 66.7. We've had NQ leading us up all day with Russell kind of lagging behind. So the ability for the Russell to now kind of find a bid here and flag for a push up would be ideal. We'll have to see if the crude inventory news helps at all. We're now holding yesterday's POC on NQ as supportive. Understand that we had a very tight range yesterday, and we had this kind of develop out, this node. Right, so this is what we just traded, 180s to our 200. This is now pushing into the high edge. This is where we expect sell side to be present as we come up into NQ. If we can build above 21s, then I think that there's a pretty solid chance that we can come back up to value high. we are able to do something like this, should be able to come back up into this value high at 39. We can get back over ETHI. Again, just in yesterday's range. Looking good so far. Again, we would love to see the Russell be able to hold value high POC, especially how it's built out with them both stacked near the highs. We want to see that kind of maintained as supportive. Let it flag out. Still need to see ES over 10s, 10 to 12s, or this is just our resistance. We'll need to see pullbacks back up to back down to 205s first if we don't see a lift over 210.
We have posted the EIA weekly petroleum status report on the feed for all those interested.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's going to be having actually like clean price action for a day makes you just understand how much of a difference it makes, and kind of just shows you how just waiting for days that aren't absolute ass can help your like it's a completely different experience. So if you're able to understand that, you know, the last 2 days have not been great trading, and you can perceive that now, the next time it happens, you can now be like, oh, okay, I don't need to trade that. I can wait for days where the price action is pretty reasonable and I can make money, and I can ignore the days where it's ass. I do not need to trade every day. I can trade on the days that work for me, right? As soon as you're able to develop that ideology and know when you have edge, when you don't, remember, like, your job is to compound. Your job is to be able to, I guess, persistence is key, right? So if you can figure out when you do not have edge and when you're going to struggle and when you're not going to be able to make money efficiently, like, that is a huge win for you. It's a huge skill to have, because if you're cutting out bad trades, then there's more opportunity for you to stay in the game longer, which is, at the end of the day, all you're doing. It is so important to be able to cut out bad trades. So anything that you can do to avoid bad trades equals more ability to take good trades. Right? You have capital. And I know there's a lot of people still who have like this fear of missing out on every rotation, but just waiting for your setups to play is always going to be 100% a better strategy than trying to catch every rotation and always be present for the market. Oh, but what if I miss the 200-point move down? Like, who cares? Trade your setup. Whatever else is happening is just not relevant to you, the day trader. Are you able to see where buyers and sellers are positioning? Is there a defined target above or below? Okay, that's all you need to know as a day trader. Nothing else matters. You need to know what's going on the macro level. Should you be looking to position, based off of yields or what's going on in the economy or interest rates? No, you don't need to. As long as you can find a buyer and a seller on a shorter time frame, and you have a target and you understand where value is being placed, you can take a trade. And if you can do that, you can make money. Everything else is irrelevant. You are trading A to B. Just remember that. Keep reminding yourself. You do not need to have a longer term narrative to be able to make money if you have a setup that takes a trade from point A to point B. You just have to be able to see it. Have a good one, Cass. Huge day. Oh, huge week. Morning, Ty. Retesting our resistance here. Yesterday value low on ES. Again, want to see us be able to build above this 212, 210. Perfect hold where we thought on the Russell, coming back up to retest our highs. Same with NQ at our POC. Really great that we held that. Need to see us push above our ETH high, which is just our overnight high, right, at 216.75. If we can build above, what we are looking for is the ability to kind of build in this, right, and then look up into our 39 for a full rotation of yesterday's value on it too. So really just keeping an eye on our ETH high. Of course, if you did take a trade off of POC, great first target, our overnight high. Need to see the Russell be able to make a new high as well and hold value, but great hold of our POC and our value high from PVZ, right? We should be expecting that if 210s can build on ES, that we should be able to look up into our 215 full gap fill that we talked about this morning. The hurdle for that move is just getting over this 1250. The seller from Globex is still here, and it might take a bit longer. If we are able to lift immediately and they don't seem to mind it, right, then we'll just go for the full push and rotation through value, I think. solid hold of our overnight high so far on NQ, as well as building above our 210s on ES. Again, need to see over 1250, and then we should be able to target the full gap fill into yesterday's POC, into our 16 area. Russell retesting our highs now off of the hold and buy from our value high. Need to see us be able to build at where our previous seller was, or look up if we want any more continuation. From the gap fill, we should be able to tell what the market wants to do. We'll either be able to hold the gap, right, in yesterday's value and be able to then build above yesterday's value high at 220 for expansion on the day, or we're just going to rotate again in yesterday's value. So we should have a good understanding. Gap is always your target. On days like this, we're always targeting the gap first and then looking for reactions. Remember that this is just people, we're just coming right back up to where we closed and deleting all of the pre-market action, right? We're just retracing it. All of the low vol move. So real positioning, we should have an understanding of if we're going to get continuation or not after that. After we filled the gap. Pushing into our target now. There it is. Pushing into 16s off the hold of 12s. Should be pretty happy if you're in from Russell and Q. Yes, doesn't matter. Everything played. This is yesterday value high. That is a full rotation of yesterday's value and our gap fills. If we can build at 15, I think that there's probably another 5 points left for the short term. Just keep in mind that NQ has hit target, right? This 239 value high. So until we can build here above that, expect us to kind of balance while trying to build. Remember, be able to get over the 39s for the rotation back up to, and probably put a line C of this node above. So our current rotation is, can we get back over yesterday's
11 a.m.
value?
Eastern time, we
If so,
expect
should
comments
be able
from
to do
Feds
something like
Jefferson, who participates in a moderated discussion on careers and economics.
we should be looking for buy side to defend, say, this area. Start 221 to ETH high off the failure at yesterday value high. We look to see if dips can get bought in this. We understand that if this does not hold, our ETH high does not hold, that we'll be looking for a move back down to 200s before we get it. Remember, this is a failure at value high. We know that we're now trading in yesterday's rotation, so this is our node. Right? This is where we're trying to build. At the tail of yesterday. If we can push over, then we can then trade to this node, this upper node. We have a very clear split where we're now just trying to build here and be able to flag. I am not doing a full session today. I think this was a pretty solid morning. I'm out of here at 12:30. Go play some V Rising. Yeah, it's out. Have a good one,
The
Max.
S&P 500 edges up 0.04% and the Dow gains 0.2%. At 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we expect comments from Fed's Jefferson, who participates in a moderated discussion on careers in economics.
So this is our ETH high retest on NQ, as well as our value high retest on ES. Just need to see if we can hold here. I think if we fail to hold at this like 16 level on NQ, that we rotate back down to hundreds before we see real bottom. Again, we've done the full rotations, so now it's just, can we build, right? That's all we're looking for right now. Can we build? Are buyers still willing to interact? Are we willing to keep going up from the gap fill? But we've met full targets and the plan is fully played out, right? So 200s we want to hold. We want to see a lift over 216s. If we can do that, we should be able to trade up to 220. Over 220, we look for 232. This is actually a new layout and I didn't realize it. So if you want the
China's military say they
current
followed
chart,
and monitored
here
the
it
US
is.
destroyer USS Halsey transits in Taiwan Strait.
Let me update the link. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that I put it on a new repaint.
Shortly expecting comments from Feds Jefferson.
And delete some of our crayons here. There's no reason to have them on. New PVZs have now opened. Nicely done, Rory. The ultra bonk. What is this? No, I'm glad you did. Then that's how you should be playing it, right? Like when you're comfortable and you have an understanding of what's going on, that's when you size up. So that's great job. You played it well. Still rejecting our gap fill, just yesterday's POC, and I'm just gonna call it 216 for the sake of it, because that's our main level. Just need to be able to build over 216. Over 216s, we look for 220, and we look for 30s above that. Really it. Can we build here? Can we make this supportive? If so, we can look up. Until then, this is the top. Again, just chomping it up at gap fill.
Channel 12 News, Israel's defense minister says the mission in North isn't completed. This might be a hot summer.
Coming down into our 200 target on NQ. We would really like to see a strong buyer as we approach down into that 200s. I feel like if 200s don't hold, then we'll probably rotate back down to 170. Just because, like, look at our structure on NQ. It's like buy side is willing to defend this edge, or we'll fill this gap. Right. So we're looking for buyers to be able to lift from here and get us back over our ETH high. Or we're looking for this to become resistance or a push back down to our PVC value, fill this LVN. So watch our retest here onto ETH high. If that's all we needed, then we'll look for a look above our overnight high and for that to become supportive. But as of right now, expect that to be your offer point for sellers for one last leg down to POC. Until we can reclaim, just think of it as where we expect sell side to be present. If it, again, becomes supportive, then we can look for a push back up to our high at 30s. I'm really not trying to draw too much on the chart, but I want you guys to just be understanding, like, this is the current auction. We have an LVN below. And so we should be targeting that if this auction does not hold. You should always have like a if then. Like we want 200s, we want to see a bid there. But if we are able to get over ETH high and we see a bid, we should be expecting 30s, right? we always have a target of where we want interaction, and we also have an understanding that if that doesn't happen, if buyers step in higher than what we thought, we should have a level in which we should be expecting sell side or expecting buyer relief, right? Buy side aggressivity above a previous sell level. So always having a level above and below to play around. And it's just a if then. So got our offer at our ETH high, an immediate push down to our 200s. Should be expected. Now we just see if 200s will sustain, right? Big level here, big node. If push below 200s should result again in that move down to like 70 area we just talked about to fill the LVN. So would love to see 200s hold. Testing now, see if we can see a buyer here, or if we'll need to rotate down to fill the LVN. Same thing, yesterday value high at our 210s on ES. Looking for buy side to be present there. If no buyer is present, then we look for the rotations back down to where our previous basing occurred. So as we lower into this is now where we look to see if buy side's willing to defend or not. Russell coming back down into our basing as well. ES testing our 210s, NQ at our 200, the bottom of this node. Want to see a lift over 200s and the bid step in to push us back over 216s, or expect the offer to now be sitting here? We can see the offer attempting to lower down into it. So can they defend this POC pivot as resistance now for that rotation back down to value low? Or can we build here and start to make higher lows, right? This is the test. Is the Russell still in the downtrend? Can ES and Q hold here? Or do we need to fill the LVNs that we've created from the lift up for that move down? So we just watch the reoffer point at 200. Can we build above? Can POC become supportive? Or is it now resistance? If it is resistance, we look for the rotation down. If we can see a supportive leg up, then we look for pushback up DTHI. A minute left on these 15s. Two 15s. Need to get back over 204, really. 204. Watching as we push down into our target below on NQ. Either a lift back over 204s in bid, or a push back down to like 70, 75. Then we look for bid there. We're just filling the LVN, remember. Should get a offer at a retest, and then we get continuation. Watch yesterday's value low here in the 80s. Look for a dip. Look for a higher low. The reason why this area is important to me is, again, the fill of our LVN into our 75s, as well as just a retest of our first period value high. So it's like, can we hold our first period value highs, or will we rotate our first period's range, right? So we saw an immediate bid off the 75s. We just need to see if this buyer is willing to maintain, or we'll rotate back down to our value low. Need to get back over 210s on ES. What's up, Gav? $10 so far from 75s. Again, need over 210s on ES, or we will start to make this our resistance. It's the same pivots as earlier. We're looking for the entire market to be able to kind of find a higher low here, with the Russell coming back to our POC, and everything else kind of building off of our period 1 value highs. Can we get back into yesterday's value, or is it now resistance? Same thing on NQ. Can we hold yesterday's value low? And look back in and then bid for the higher low for a push back up to a POC, or is it resistance? Right, like this. This is the current battle. We have filled the gap. We are now testing yesterday's value low. Do we see sell side acceptance here with a failure to breach back in, to rotate down? Same thing on NQ.
Barrels per day in June.
Do we fail to get back into yesterday's value off the gap, or can we expand? Gives you a directional idea of where we're headed. This is us accepting back into yesterday value from the dip below. Look, we bid inside yesterday value for a rotation back up to POC. A failure and a build below yesterday's value results in a retest of today's value low. Yeah, I mean it's just not bearish, I guess is the best way to put it. We're maintaining our uptrend, right? So like think about why tick is holding 0. Because we're still in our overall uptrend on the day, right? Like stocks are still going up, things are still maintaining. So like yes, price did sell from our gap up at 16s, right? But like we're still moving up, right? Like nothing has shifted in our trend at all. We came back down to our buyer from the last push up, and then that's it. So like yes, we're maintaining kind of like a bullish tick structure, but it's not bearish price action in the overall trend. It's just a pullback, I guess is the best way to put it. Like if we see a negative 500 and we're still maintaining higher lows, it'll probably be a really good dip buy. But other than that, like all we've done is rotate from value high to POC in our uptrend overall. Again, like we expected price to go up to gap fill and then sell. So it's just like, now what do we do? Can we hold halfway through the gap? Can we still build and maintain higher lows in our value from our morning open? Like if those things can happen, then we should be able to keep going. If they fail, right, if we can't hold yesterday's value, if we can't start to build above the gap, then we can get pretty bearish. But like until we breach below 200s and make that resistance, it still just kind of feels like bullish price action. Again, like we gapped down on the day. All we've done is filled the gap. So it's a very neutral market. We need to see a push over yesterday's value highs and then a hold for expansion and a show that we want to go higher. Gaps are always your target, and then it's just kind of a neutral market until we get direction. Solid hold so far in NQ off of our yesterday value low on the recovery. Everything's still just kind of, on a quote-unquote bear flag. Russell maintaining, though. Would like to see yesterday's value lows maintain as supportive for a retest back up. Do I use tick for entries? If I see a pattern that's playable. So like right now, I don't see a ton of merit in tick other than taking profit or looking for potential entries, I guess, for like lift. If you're just playing off 0 and 500. I think on days where the market's pretty neutral in our tick structure, where we're kind of balanced, looking for tests into 500 and into our negative 500 are probably your best bet to actually look for entries. Just because we know that those are our extremes on the day, just like you would on like a volatile day with negative 1,000 and positive 1,000, right? Like we don't have a ton here other than knowing that like there isn't a shitload of selling pressure, right? That's what this is showing us. But like we should look for rotations if we do get them into our extreme and then look for a rotation back up from that. So like this can give you a viable entry. Whereas like all this is telling us is that we're still maintaining an overall kind of uptrend on the day breadth wise from stocks. So like we haven't seen a shift yet. If we start to see a shift where like price instead of holding 0 is doing this and holding negative 500 to 0 with like some reactions like this and then back, like that's a different market. It's a very different market than the one that we're trading right now. This is a shift in our overall breadth on the day, telling us that most of the market is bearish and is maintaining that bearish trend. I'm not a huge fan of trading neutral tick structures. I'm looking for extremes and then the reactions from them. So what we can do usually is like look on the day and see what our extremes have been in our rotations. We can see that like -3, almost -400, basically, -350. Has been kind of our low, and positive like 400, 430 has been our high in these rotations. So it's like, okay, well, if we're going to maintain a similar pattern where this is our low, and we see a divergence here, this is our low on our higher low from that divergence. Like, okay, well, where were these highs? This high was a push into our 500 at that 430. This is another one into our high, into this level. So like we should be really aware of this level because this is clearly the top for these rotations on the day right now. And so if we have that, it's like, okay, well, I know that there isn't a ton of excess that we can get unless we see a shift. So if I mark this, now I have like a top pivot of like where things are, overbought. And then it's like, okay, well, I know that on the day, this has been our relative extreme. So now I have a rotation range where I can look to see if like we're playing into a pivot where I can expect smaller rotations to occur. That's literally how I use tick. It's just like, how are we reacting on the day? And is there a pattern in where our relief is happening? Hopefully that was helpful. But like that's really all I'll do. And
It's
I'll
11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. We expect comments from Feds Collins.
it's
Provide remarks
my
to
God.
MRT students, followed by a fireside discussion. Both text and Q&A are expected.
It's the same principle as what we apply on the Russell. It's like, where has the Russell been bouncing and what has the market's reaction been once the Russell finds a low? So if we have that information of like, is the Russell helping with us finding pivots? Like, okay, well, if we can look and see where we've been finding our bounces, it's like, okay, when the Russell and NQ are coming into that basing structure, we find a lift. Like, okay, so if I wait for the Russell to find a low, and then we can find a higher low to play off of on the Russell, that'll probably give me an entry. We know that when the Russell tops, that is more than likely where we start to see bearishness. And this is a leading signal, because if we look at RTY here, NQ still got a bit more lift, but it was the start of where we started to sell off. So we just like watch to see our reactions. The Russell's been leading weakness. You can see that Russell tops before ES and NQ do. But as soon as we start to make lower highs on the Russell, it's a good signal that like, yeah, this is the top. So I'll just like look for patterns like that. Is there something that's leading or lagging on the day? And where are those pivots for that thing? The last couple days haven't been great for Tick. I think I walked through maybe on Monday the best way we were using Tick, which was just waiting for the negative 500 rotation because the market was so neutral. We were just kind of like oscillating zero tick without making any extremes. So when we did hit extremes, it became like incredibly important to let us know that there might be some exhaustion from a side. But like when we rotate ticks around zero and it's very neutral, I tend to not really do much with that information. It just tells me that like we're not ready for a move. Like if the market's neutral, I shouldn't expect much from ES, NQ, RTY in the sense of price action. Because what's going to move it, right? If we have neutrality, it's like, okay, well, we should be neutral overall.
At 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time, we expect comments from Fed's Collins, who will provide remarks to MIT students, followed by a fireside discussion.
I really want to reiterate just like understanding when you have good setups, like this morning, understanding just the retest and the push up to our fill, and like being able to then leave. Like we can clearly see the slowdown into midday, right? Like your hourly, like your trading is your first like hour and a half, and then it gets stale, and then you're like other burst of speed, and then it gets stale, and then you get another burst of speed. But like understanding when things slow down and when you should be interacting with the market when it actually has movement is key. So like we went through the entire trade plan. Now it's garbage again, right? So should you be expecting the same things? No. Should you be trading the same size? No. Because we don't have as much structure to play off of. We had unfilled structure. We understood where we were going. The trade plans played, right? Our levels played. And now we're just balanced after the gap fill. We're trying to decide direction. And that's a lot more like wishy-washy compared to what we had earlier in the day, which was a clear hold at the lows, a clear push over our highs from the morning balance, and then a push and recovery of yesterday's
Fed's
value
Collins
and
says,
trade
I'm
back up to our
optimistic the
gap.
Fed can get to 2% inflation in a reasonable time frame. And I expect demand will need to slow to get inflation to 2%. Recent inflation setbacks are not a surprise. Firms are well positioned to absorb faster wage growth. I don't expect productivity jump to be persistent. There are risks to cutting rates too soon. Monetary policy is moderately restrictive, and the Fed policy is well positioned for the current outlook. The economy is robust, job markets coming into better balance. Seeing some sharp downside moves in dollar yen.
This is sell side trying to make POC resistance, right? The offer trying to stack now at POCs. Still just doing a rotation. Nothing really to say. POCs become resistance, then we'll look for value low. If POCs become supportive, then we'll look for a higher low, and then a push back up to value highs. We are then literally in the middle. Yeah, I mean, Odie, the trades were this morning. Now you're just waiting to see which direction we go inside the range. Looks like you're still profitable on the day, so that's great. Good job, man. Just gotta know when things are kind of neutral. I still don't think things are incredibly bearish as of yet. We're just holding POC and are halfway of our gap. But you won't get expansion until we see highs become supportive or look for rotation back down to our PVC lows. Not too much to say until then. We don't know if the Russell is going to need to come down to that 60-30 or that 57-10 before we get another rotation. Yeah, I'm not gonna be. I did my trades. I'll update charts once in a while today, but like I'm done trading for the most part. Waiting on this last rotation, and then I'm out of here. There's no reason to trade the slowdown. We hit our target and immediately sold off. Now it's just oscillating until we figure out direction. It's literally all you need. It's like a structural play, and then it's just discretionary based off of that. For the rest of the day, it's just a matter of, again, like I think like the biggest things that you guys can do on rotations like this is, are we above or below our anchored VWAP for the period? That's literally it. Just ask yourself that. Is trend going down or up in the current rotation? And what do we need to do to show a shift? Well, we need to recover our AVWAP, right, as supportive, see that flip, and then we need to see a push over our value high. That leads to expansion. As long as we're maintaining our anchored VWAP as resistance, we should be looking for the rotation to continue to push down into our lower value. Buyers are like really attempting to hold here, which is just our previous value high from our first period. You notice, right? This is where buy side is attempting to hold, which is a much higher low, and it's fine. Like, this is good, but like we need to be able to get back into yesterday's value, which is all we're attempting here. You can see this is yesterday's value low. That's where our POC is. So there is a ton of pressure right now to either not allow us back in, or to buy here because it's below value for a rotation back up, right? This is either going to be an incredible area for buyers because it's the low of yesterday, or it is going to result in a failure from buy side getting trapped, and a rotation back down to our value lows. So we're just at a major pivot here. We should expect chop until we find a direction. We know that the Russell is leading down from the push up, and we still have not seen a break of the lower highs. We are channeling, right? So waiting for the Russell to find that low and breach this downtrend that's created is going to give you your best chance for upside. We want to see a recovery of the POCs. We're currently, again, attempting just our first period's value high, just PVZ value high from period 1. So can the Russell find support here, or is it going to need to rotate all the way back down to value low? That's literally all you're looking for. So as we approach into that 60, we look to see if it back over POC and then make 64s supportive. Till then, we are in a downtrend. We are holding AVWAP as resistance. We are rotating ticks around POC. You do not want to really trade here. You want to be looking for this edge into value. If you see a higher low and a break of the down. But right now, it's pretty indecisive. It just looks like everything's kind of coming back down to VWAP. As VWAP's kind of coming up, price is grinding down, and then we'll figure out if buy side's still willing to defend, and then it's just coming back up to our edges. until we see our edges as support, don't expect expansion, expect balance. If you are scalping longs, right, like you're scalping longs into our anchored VWAP. Until anchored VWAP is supportive, it's resistant.
Azeri BTC crude oil exports from the Cayhan port set at 18.4 million barrels in June versus 16.5 million barrels in May, according to their schedule.
Morning, Kevin. Russell really seems like it wants to come down to 57 before we get directional decision. To invalidate that idea, we'd need to recover 6140, star value high. We should be expecting sell side to now kind of be present here, right, in our pivot. Offer should basically stick here for the rotation back down to value low before we get our directional decision move. Or you need to see a recovery of this and then a build over POC or any sort of continuation. Just like Russell's leading us down, right? So until the Russell can find this low, and most buy side activity is down at this like 57 level. Like, okay, can we maintain a higher low, or do we need to retrace back down to our value while ES and NQ are just rotating ticks around POC, right? So we need to see, because the Russell is the one that's actually moving outside of the range, it should be the deciding factor of where price is going for everything else, because it's the only thing that isn't trapped in balance. So either we recover this, right, and can make it supportive again, or NQ and ES seem pretty trapped and we'll have to wait for edge tests lower. Again, like ES and NQ, their structure isn't incredibly bearish, but we have clear resistance above us that we need to be able to breach above for us to call it bullish. I know that's not incredibly helpful, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, just have to wait for the Russell to find this low. NQ and ES will continue to rotate ticks. You're in the middle of the range. I think NQ structure by far looks the best with us maintaining value high from period 1. I'm just going to be really watching this Russell retest.
Has bolstered consumer spending.
Because like, what does it mean if we can't get back over our first period value high and POC here? This is our resistance. What does that mean? Well, that means that this buyer here is no longer present, and this is now our seller, right? And if they are no longer finding values at these highs, then this is our current range. So if this seller is now back and this buyer is off sides, right, this very clear shift,
I expect some factors
then we should be looking for the rotation back down to where the buyer was last time.
It's kind of saying I expect some of the factors that are underpinning economic resilience will wane.
So we either recover and make this supportive again, right, look back over to recover this buyer that was present here and the seller that was present here, or we look for the rotation back down to where value was found previously. Does that make sense?
And Colin says the current monetary policy should slow economy.
Okay. It's just like a clear shift. It should let us know. We now have like over an hour of just sitting here. So someone's going to get offsides very quickly. Because you have two-sided trading taking place here.
For longer will slow the economy.
Again, why is this area important on NQ? It is our value low from yesterday.
Of the events at MIT.
So we have over an hour of price action now of just sideways movement, trying to show sellers are trying to push us below and hold us there. We have buyers who are accumulating here, trying to push us back over value. That is a lot of volume in this little area, which will result in a move in either direction. On looks above yesterday's value low, right, we're looking for retests for them to be supportive and then looking for rotations up. On tests below value low from yesterday, we're looking for it to be resistance and then looking to play down. That's your range, right? Even in this structure that we're currently in, it's the range. You can see the interaction. We look above, it becomes supportive, and this is our high. We look below, this is our resistance, and we play it down, right? So we need to see a break of our most recent highs out of this range, and we need to see retests of yesterday's value. Remember, yesterday's value low is just POC on the day. If sellers are going to maintain, or if buyers are going to maintain, this level will hold on a retest.
Fez Collins says it is too soon to tell just how restrictive policy is.
So far, perfect rejection where we thought on the Russell. You need to see a higher low if you want any sort of continuation. With the higher low, if the Russell is going to do it from the rejection of our previous value high, we want to see yesterday's value low on NQ hold as supportive. We want to see these POCs hold as supportive on ES and NQ as RTY develops out a higher low. If this fails, right, then it's just another rotation down. You can see that rejection at our value high from period 1. This is our resistance until proven otherwise. We need to make this supportive, recover these buyers who are here the last 2 attempts. Till then, this is your offer. Same thing for ES. We want to see these buyers be able to maintain. Failure will result in a pushback down to our value and POC from period 1. I'm just trying to get you guys ready because I'm going to dip soon and I'm not staying here for another 4 hours of job. So we have our understanding of where we're going, where we need to break, what needs to happen. I've already stayed longer than I want. I'll try to post some update charts as the day goes on, but like PVZ should be all you need, to be honest. No, I don't think it's going to chop forever. Again, we've been building here for almost an hour and a half. So you're going to get people who are off sides, and you should get a rotation to either back to our highs or our lows, and then you then play off of that, right? Like, does the value low edge hold as resistance? Or does the value high edge hold as supportive? I just don't care, to be honest. We did our trade this morning. Goes back to our conversation we had earlier today of like, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you have a target and you understand where your edges are, that's a trade. If you are trading A to B, the overall market does not make a difference. Just wait for a structure and wait for a play and a plan to play out, right? Play your plan, move on to the next one. If nothing's setting up, if nothing looks good, don't trade it. No reason to be emotionally attached. Be mechanical.
Fed's Collins says the markets have already priced in Fed balance sheet reductions.
This is where we can start to pay attention as ES and RTY come down into our value low. This is our 57 that we were looking for the last 2 hours. We're watching to see if the Russell can find a low into the bottom of our balance as ES and NQ also come down in, giving us room. If NQ does not make this 57 supportive, right, then we're going to be in a rough time. I'm going to see decently strong bids here into our value lows. Below 200s, it gets a little bit rough. We'd like 200s to stay bid. Let's look for some relief as we push down. We're going to get punished people from the range. Look for relief and look for recovery, or look for 57s to remain resistance on reoffer. But regardless, we should retest this value low from the period before, from the rejection of our value high. So you've now done your full range rotation. So now we decide, is our morning balance invalidated, right? Are buyers still present here? Are we able to lift and rotate back up? Or does our value low from period 1 become resistance, right? Do we build here sell side and then look for continuation down to test ETH low? This is where I think we get our direction. Now that ES and NQ have come down to value low with the Russell, you now have everything in sync again for once. So from the Russell rejection, we got the lead down and failure into our value lows on ES and NQ, right? Russell leads. if you are longed off this low, right, first target, of course, is going to be back to this POC and our value high on NQ. So as we push into this, we need to make it supportive, or this will be where our offer is sitting at this 76 to 80 on NQ and our POC at 208 to 10 on ES. We're looking for a continuation of a lift.
Would not use AI to conduct monetary policy.
But understand that this is where our seller is going to reoffer. We need to see the Russell be able to maintain our value high now. Sorry, our value low as supportive on this look in. Again, this is the move that we were looking for. Understand if we can't get back over this value high, we will rotate down probably to the value low, right? I really want to reiterate again and again, what did we do on the Russell? Why did this make sense? Well, we rejected value high from period 1. What do we know about profiles? If we look back into a period of value, right, a period of balance from this morning, and we don't see this as supportive and it becomes our resistance, we will retrace down to where previous value was found before. So what does it mean if we reject yesterday's value low and our period 1 value high? Well, that means that there's no longer a buyer willing to participate here and hold this as supportive, and we're now inside a previous area of balance. So if value high is holding from period 1, we look for POC, and if POC becomes resistance and we build below, we look for a full rotation back down to where value was found at the beginning of the day, down at 14. These are just rotations of value. Are we on the same plan? Do we get it? What I'm saying? Same thing on ES. We are trying to hold period 1 value high off of a push into POC. Let me turn off. This is why we included these previous zone labels. So we've pushed down into the previous periods POC. We are now attempting to rebid and hold value high. If this is able to bid at this higher low, then we can trade back up to POC and value high in the day. If this POC becomes resistance, we look for a pushback down to period 1's value low. It's a rotation. We're looking for the higher lows to maintain, or we look for where value is found last. Either buyers are willing or they're not. And if they're not willing to buy here, then they're more likely to be willing to buy where they bought previously. Either value has shifted or it has not. All right, I'm just repeating myself at this point. Look to see if higher lows can maintain. I am out of here. Bye.